Okay.
This is JJ Pianki of the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign interviewing Marcus Slavenas on October 3rd, 2017 in the main library. Where and when were you born?
I was born in Chicago, Illinois on September 4th, 1970.
Who were your parents and what are or were their occupations?
My father is Ronald Slavenas, and he is a retired school social worker. My mother is Rosemary Slavenas, and she is a retired professor of early childhood education.
Cool. Do you have any siblings?
Yes.
Who were they and did they serve in the military?
Yes. Eric Slavenas is my older brother. He served in the 82nd Airborne in Grenada. And my younger brother, Brian Slavenas, served both as a paratrooper, then later as a Chinook pilot, and was killed in action in Iraq in 2003.
Okay. What were you doing before you entered the service?
High school and lifeguard during the summer before.
What branch of the military did you serve in?
The Marine Corps.
So, why did you choose that branch of the service?
I joke around it because my dad and both my brothers were paratroopers. It was my act of rebellion. But honestly, my older brother told me he had trained with Marine Recon, and he thought they were the best unit he'd ever worked with. And I think the recruiting, my dad says I was won over by good recruiting.
What happened when you departed for training camp and during your early days of training? What was that like?
Oh, exciting. I do remember, being picked up by the recruiter and getting a little bit weepy. Boot camp is something, not what I really expected necessarily, but a lot more, I kind of expected more shooting and that kind of stuff, and a lot of it was a lot more marching and learning how to move as a one piece in a machine. Mm-hmm. I think how to obey orders immediately. I liked it always, although I don't think I would like it if I had to do that now because I was 17 when I started, so it that was my first time away from home, and I felt like I was doing something good. So, yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Do you recall your instructors, and if so, what were they like?
So boot camp, you're talking about just at the beginning, boot camp.
Boot camp.
Yeah, yes, they were, let's see, the way they do it in the Marine Corps, at least, you have a senior drill instructor, and he's kind of like a disciplinarian father, and then he has like two dogs, pit bulls that are attacking you, that he can sick on you whenever he wants. They were always, how do I say this? They're disrespectful, but they weren't. I always thought there was a reason for everything that they did. I kind of always saw the logic in how this is going to keep me alive if I'm in combat. Mm-hmm. Towards the end, two of them became nice, and one of them even, because my dad was there, and they have like a parents' night, and they, I guess they came back, and I had to do a bunch of bends and thrusts because my dad had been buying the senior drill instructor some beers, but then he actually went out with some of us, one of the drill instructors, after we graduated. Another one, on the other hand, I saw him like 2 years later, and when I was in squad leader school, and he was in platoon sergeant school, and he was just as mean to me as he had been before, insulted me, and said he refused it. He didn't want to shake my hand because I don't know how crass I can be in here.
You can be as crass as you want.
He said, well, I'd shake your hand, but I just took a piss. So he was, I think, mean through and through.
Did you receive any specialized training, and if so, in what?
Yeah, I'm a guess a grunt, kind of a super grunt. I've started off as an anti-tank gunner, but a tow gunner, and then I volunteered for a reconnaissance. We had a reconnaissance company where I was in the brigade I was in, and so mostly we do unit training. But so I probably, if I were a specialist in anything, it would be amphibious raids, and somewhat too in heliborne assaults. And I was an instructor for that, for special amphibious special operations landings and raids.
Okay. How did you adapt to military life, including the physical regimen, barracks, food, and social life?
Lack of choice. I mean, I think I did fine. There's a lot of people who have there's kind of two attitudes. The people who always say I hate it and do as little as they can, and then the people, I always found it better to volunteer and try to do more. I liked it. I guess it's lonely though, is the main thing always. I think maybe I had a better mindset when I was 13 or something and doing karate, when you're focused on when you're 18 or 19-year-old boy. I don't know. Excuse me. There's no girls around or anything like that, and you waste a lot of your. I don't know. You waste a lot of your free time running around like an idiot. I think we see the same things, the exact same stuff here on campus too. But
sure.
But I don't know. Did I get off the question? How did I adapt to the lifestyle?
Mm-hmm. You were saying it was lonely. What about lonely? Like, why was it lonely?
Well, you're stuck with all these other guys, and most of them are continuously. I heard one person on a movie referred to it as a whole pack of alphas. So everybody's trying to step on everybody else continuously, and so and you can't get away. You can't leave. You can't quit. I mean, you can, but it will mess up your life pretty good. So, and I didn't want to do that. So that's a hard part about it. Feel free to
okay.
ask me. You can ask me more questions if you want me to embellish on anything.
Okay. Was there any particular incident that stood out in terms of being lonely or being part of a group and not actually part of them, or?
I can't think of anything particular off the top of my head. Just not really. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think I was fine. I don't want to be like
Sure.
coming across as a complainer.
No, you're fine.
I'd like to put up the bravado shield and say that I was tough the whole way through. I was either laughing at death or chewing on nails the whole time.
You mean being a quote-unquote typical Marine?
Yeah.
I hate to
What's that?
I hate to tell you this, but we know you're human.
Right. Yes, we have experienced fear and all that kind of stuff. I heard a story at the VA one time about the great guy who saved everybody. I used to talk to people over at the VA hospital, to calm down. And a Vietnam vet told a story about someone who was saved the day and ran through machine gun fire and all the, and then, he was the hero. And then 2 months later, the same guy froze and couldn't. I mean, maybe just how much sleep he had and what he had to eat, So no, we're.
Where were you stationed?
Kaneohe Bay, Hawaii.
Oh gosh darn.
Yeah, right. No, I would live in Hawaii again, but I wouldn't have I'd probably have my hair longer than it is now, because there are troops. I don't know now, they may not. They're all somewhere else these days, I think, but they see you coming.
So were you in Hawaii the entire time, or were you deployed
Probably
somewhere?
about half. Yeah, I served in, well, we do training. Sometimes I go back and forth to California, Camp Pendleton a lot. And then I served in the Gulf War One. So I was there from like September to April, something like that.
And so in Gulf War One, where were you? Were you in Kuwait? Were you in Iraq, Afghanistan?
Started in Saudi Arabia and then up through into Kuwait.
And what were some of your memories of that experience?
Like stories or
Yeah,
something
what
like
was
that.
it? What was it like? What did you do?
Well, I was in a recon unit. We kind of, before the ground war started, we would always stay about 25 or so miles in front of our lines. And at the beginning, it was mostly boring, just sitting and watching, not much. And as we creeped forward, it got more and more interesting. And we kind of moved around, sometimes in the desert, a lot of times in the cities too. And we kind of, a lot of times we would go, like the Army Special Forces would have safe houses throughout the city, and we would like go check in with them, let them know where we're going, and then we'd move and find our own spot and kind of move around. Mostly we watch, and then and this is the thing, there's a bunch of stories, my name's in the book, it's called Storm on the Horizon, about the Battle of Kafji. And that was the Republican Guard attacked Saudi Arabia and Kafji. And we kind of, I think it was about 2-3 days, we were basically inside of their lines. And there were tanks all around. We kind of peek our heads up and you could see the commander sitting maybe just a few hundred yards away. And that was, I don't know. I was almost too dumb to be scared. It was more some of the things like the sounds of the explosions and like when big things would come fly, big pieces of shrapnel. When you hear them, the subsonic ones were somehow the scariest. They kind of and stuff like, oh geez, that was pretty close. But then we were kind of given the go ahead to start. Mostly what we did was directed fire from artillery and from helicopters and fighter bombers. And so for about a day we sat there and on the radio and just told them where to drop, where to shoot. Sometimes there was a few times at the beginning where we engaged in fire with the Republican Guard close by, but mostly we tried to stay unnoticed. And one of the main, my brother made a joke about it, he said, did you take the buttons off of your blouse so you could get closer to the ground? And that's when there was that whole line of tanks around us, and then it was our stuff hammering us, but it was right on our position pretty much. And that happened for about 10 minutes, just ears, only static in your ears and everything shaking and stuff exploding around you. And then we pop up our heads then once it's quiet, and everybody, all the tanks, all the people, everything just decimated. No one left. There was one, I remember seeing one tank going back behind us, retreating, getting away, that happened to not get wrecked. There was, I was trying to count like my near-death experiences, because no one got hurt. We had two teams there. One guy got hurt, got a piece of shrapnel in the hand, but no one got. It was superficial. A funny story, I don't know if I've told this one before, was that so there was that battle, and then I guess I'll stick with that. It was something, and we finally left, got out to leave. We talked to, it was actually an Army colonel who was running the the communications with all this, and we talked to him and told us when, okay, here's your window, get out now. And so we got in our vehicles, all the tires were flat, everything filled with shrapnel holes. We got out of the building we were in, and it was just completely, it was a nice house when we went in there. That's a fun thing for a 19-year-old boy to be doing too, because you're free to break in to people's houses. Actually, one time we ran out of food, and I don't consider going for food pillaging, but we did break into a grocery store and stocked up on canned food and stuff. I think that's an ethical thing, right? We weren't stealing stuff otherwise. Maybe I got a rug or something too for a souvenir. But just watching that the Kafji was a nice city, and it didn't look so. It looked very different when we were on our way out, and just remember the Cobras hovering there, and they had this gorgeous water tower, and they were just hammering it with missiles. To just keep rambling. So
basically, as part of your job, you weren't really necessarily going in and causing trouble. It was more go in, kind of look around, call in an airstrike to wherever there was a hot spot, and stay unnoticed.
Yeah, that's usually our job. Once in a while, we get assigned like a small raid type missions, but mostly what we do is sneak around and report back, and then direct fire, be the eyes on target. Let me think. There's another story I like to tell that was kind of funny, because after that was well before the ground war even started. Mm-hmm. And then, like the two nights before the actual ground offensive started, we went all the way across the border. Mm-hmm. And which reminds me, it was always hearing when we were in the rear, you can always hear the B-52s dropping bombs, and sometimes don't hear it. You can feel the pressure changing, and but so then we got to see it when we went up there, and we were nervous. We're going to try to walk through their lines, but at that point they didn't have any lines left. It was just craters everywhere. And so we, by about noon the next day, we realized nothing was going on. We kind of just set up in a crater that was probably about 6, 7, 8, maybe 8 feet deep, so we could go down and sit at the bottom and be safe. And then we always had one person, with some camouflage cover over it, and just looking with binoculars watching. And I think it was, a little later in the afternoon, we got lazy, and we were like, there's nothing here. And so we were all sitting down and just sitting down at the bottom laughing, and goofing around. And then all of a sudden the F-18 flew over, and I guess when they come back sometimes if they don't use all their ordnance, then they drop it there on the lines. And they dropped a 500-pound bomb like very close to us. And it was just the fact that we had actually gotten complacent and weren't really watching, because the whole top of the crater just got wiped. If someone's head had been there, it would have been gone. And I was just like, wow, that was one of the few times when not doing your job right it saved somebody's life. And so.
Did you often worry about that, about being quote unquote killed by friendly fire?
Oh yeah, I met a guy afterwards. I was in squad leader school. Who woke up back in the United States. He drove one of those light armored vehicles, and he woke up back in the United States because he got hit by friendly fire. I watched one time back in the Battle of Kafji. It was actually the unit I had used to be with, the tow platoon, the anti-tank gunners. Watched one of their missiles go right by, like within 10 feet of the building we were in, and those tow missiles, at the time when they say unclassified, it'll burn through 72 inches of homogeneous steel, so it would, we wouldn't have been doing too good. It throws us like, I don't know, remember the detail of this molten molten chemical of some type. It just burns through everything. So I worried. I remember because I'm a guitar player, and I remember I was more worried about being mutilated than being killed. One, the one that I think most all boys, at least boy soldiers, worry about losing a certain portion of their anatomy is a big concern, and I worried about losing not being, like, getting my hands blown off and not being able to play guitar again.
Okay. Is there other things about your experience in Gulf War I that stick out in your memory, good or bad?
As opposed to the war aspect of it, there was definitely just the environmental misery. It was extremely hot, and they talk about the dry heat in those places, but we were always, the Marine Corps was more along the coast. So, I mean, when you show up there, it's 120 degrees, and it's humid. People were, when you lead into it, people were dropping like flies, which leads me to the flies are just, the American flies will kind of buzz around and stuff like that. Those flies there, they go right for any fluid. They fly right into your eyes, right in. And this is so disgusting, I can't even believe we do this. We started doing this game where suddenly someone would go, and then you get everyone to look. And then you open your mouth and the fly comes flying out of your mouth because you caught one, a live fly in your mouth. Yeah, no, that was a big game for a while. Different world.
Now, how long were you there? How long was that deployment?
Oh, I mean, I think I was there 7.5 months. And so it was, hard at the beginning, not so bad for a while. There's like benefits of being in the special ops units because they treat you better when you're off. And we got like pilots' quarters, and it was kind of terrible. We had air conditioners, and all the regular infantry guys were sitting in the tents, and we had air conditioners. But I don't know if it helped us, and we would turn them up or make them so cold that we would be wearing jackets inside. But I think it was maybe a bad idea because then we'd probably spend 10 days out on patrol and then 5 days back in the barracks. So it was miserable. That heat, no. It definitely does something for you, and I'll go camping if there's something nice to do, but I don't like to rough it anymore too much. The difference, I say, it makes you so you know that you can live through this stuff, like sleeping in a puddle, and barely sleeping, but it doesn't make it any less miserable. You just know you can do it. Mm-hmm. And that's a lot of what especially being a grunt, you're miserable. We didn't towards the end when they started moving all the stuff back, I didn't take a shower for over a month once. People start getting rashes and stuff like that because they're moving all the equipment back before the troops have to stay to protect the equipment. And then once all the equipment's back, then we can come back. I'm sure a lot of stuff got dumped and left behind too, but
what would you say was the most miserable experience? Since we're talking about
misery.
Well, what was the most miserable experience? I mean, was it sleeping in a puddle? Was it not taking a shower for a month? Was it something else?
Well, I guess there's the two types of misery are one, the exhaustion where you have to keep going, and then there's just the sitting and being miserable. And that's like, it reminded me of mountain warfare school where you work going, and that's in the mountains, right, and it's cold, and you sweat and you're exhausted, and then you sit down, and within 10 minutes, you're shivering. I always remember I had a re-enlistment package, and I was going to re-enlist, and that was when I was in squad leader school. And land navigation training is always known to be kind of exhausting because you have to go. You're doing your compass, and you're going long distances trying to find something, so you got to pay attention, and it's physically exhausting. And I remember you had to get find 10 of the locations you go there and pick something up from it or something like that to prove that you were there. And one of them was up at the top of a hill and we could see it. And my legs were just like, I could barely even stay standing. And I remember I was like, hey, Shaughnessy, could you just go get that and let me sit here for a little bit? And then I think that week I had put in my application. I went to my first 2 years at NIU and then I transferred to U of I here. And I had gotten my acceptance letter from NIU. And that was the week that I made my decision that I'm gonna get out and go to college. And I don't know. But then I just remember sitting there in the desert when it was burning hot and having my mosquito net over my head to keep the flies off. But it was so hot that even the mosquito net and my own breath inside of there was miserable. So it's kind of like, okay, I'll pull it off for a little bit and breathe. And then, okay, the flies are going up my nose. All right, pull it back down. So, no, I don't like that anymore. But I think there's something happens, I'm 47 now. I don't feel like I have to prove anything anymore. Like, no, young adult males have this, and I'm just speaking for males. I know, especially now, and I'm, obviously, I know there's a lot of women serving in the military now too and doing a great job. We just didn't have them, and back then they didn't allow women in those units, so we had that separation. But so I can speak more to how the young males are, and you're just trying so hard to prove to everyone how tough you are or whatever. And that's why I years later, because I always thought I joined the military to do a good thing for my country, and I knew I had a good life here, and I don't know how much how much different it is in the rest of the world. Like I really thought it was, like America was just the greatest thing and everybody basically lived in hovels besides us or something like that, and these loaded words like freedom and that, which I don't know, I'm not free to quit my job even. I'm free to quit my job if I want my kids to not have diapers and stuff. But like 20 years later, a guy, I didn't serve with him, but he was also a Marine. I was like, yeah, I joined the Marine Corps. I wanted to do good for my country and do the right thing. And he's like, bullshit. You excuse me, but you joined the Marine Corps because you wanted to be the baddest motherfucker on the block. And I was like, you wanted to have the cool toys and blow things up and be congratulated for doing it instead of arrested. That type of thing. And then I was like, oh, this is my whole, the whole facade came crumbling down. I was like, dang, you're exactly right. That is the truth of it. So, I don't know, I think I'm rambling on, but maybe staying somewhere in the vicinity of the questions.
Good. What would you say was like one of your happiest memories about your time in the Corps? Whether deployed or not deployed? Oh,
the very last about face. When they said you are now discharged and you do your last about face and then you're like, I'm out of here. They're done. I'm trying to think what I like, and it's the toys stuff is fun. Jumping out of helicopters into the ocean, flying, being pulled out of the jungle on the spy rigs, hooking up, and that kind of the fast stuff I love. I like heights. I like the fast moving, that kind of stuff a lot. The training, some of it like that I never did, but like when you do the training, moving as a team and you all move like a machine, and how you move through buildings and stuff like that. And just like everybody knows exactly where to go, pop, 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 pop. That stuff's cool. Firing I never fired one live because I wasn't in combat, but firing the big guns, the tow missiles, the AT-4, the shoulder fired missiles and stuff like that. It's that stuff's exciting. Flying around in helicopters, that stuff, the high speed stuff is cool. I like that. I miss that kind of stuff.
Why did you transfer out of the, what was it, anti-aircraft unit?
Yeah, anti-tank.
Anti-tank unit to recon?
Because it's a big change actually, because the recon is elite unit. I would call it entry level elite. The one I was in, we're not, the leaders are older, but they're still the young guys. Like some of them, the higher level ones, the guys are all at least in their mid 20s. We still had a lot of the 20-year-olds. So you get promoted onto that. So it's I think it was just I wanted to be the best that I could, and kind of that same bravado stuff. There's a big change when you go there. You have to try out for it. You have to pass a test. Maybe 1 out of 20 make it. Mm-hmm. And these are people, you have to volunteer to get into it. My older brother always told me you should be in the best unit you can because you want to be surrounded by the best people. There's a lot of people in the other units who maybe don't really want to be there and don't try very hard. But it's a lot more competitive. People are a lot meaner. Everyone's very mean to. I mean, you have your friends, and when you go out and have your beers or whatever, now you're still mean. Half the time it ends up in a fight, too. I've had bottles broken in front of my face, punched. How many fights have I had with Marines? I had my face filled with pieces of glass once because someone smashed a bottle right in front of my face. I'm sorry, I feel like I sound like I'm boasting and I smile when I tell these stories, but I've choked more than one of my fellow Marines unconscious. Mm-hmm. Maybe this is too much. Maybe you've heard all these same kind of stories.
We've heard all
You've heard all these stories. I'm not like... I wanted to study library science and I talked to a bunch of maniacs.
I hate to tell you this, but your stories do not make you a unique snowflake.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think I'm any different. I mean, there's probably a few different categories of people you get, but I'm sure my type is represented quite well.
How did you feel when you were witnessing casualties and destruction?
I felt sad about the destruction. The people being blown apart and stuff. It was a lot of it. It wasn't enough at a distance. I admit it. We pulled up one time next to one of the tanks, and someone had been hit with a round that was made for hitting tanks, not people. And so the ribs were everything was wide open. I don't know. We're trained so much, and I don't know how the other branches do it. In the Marine Corps, they do this stuff. They give you when you're watching in boot camp your videos about something like that, and then they set you up. And here's the joke: can you give someone a laceration with a baseball bat? No. Yes, you can. Here it is, and they show you a picture of it, and everybody's like, oh yeah, and you're taught to laugh at it always. And so I think I don't know, I didn't feel bad for them. I just didn't. And we didn't get no one in my unit was killed. Mm-hmm. So I didn't experience that myself. In retrospect, I feel different about it. And particularly because my brother was killed in the next war, that who did I kill? Was it someone's dad that killed my brother? I don't know, maybe if I'm jumping away from, but this is how I think about it more now.
Mm-hmm.
Did I kill someone, was that the son of someone's, who I killed their dad, that killed my brother? And then I think about this stuff too, and I think, that person who killed my brother is probably more like me than a lot of other people that are around me. And don't take this the wrong way. I'm very glad to be an American. I don't know if I would say proud. I was just born here. My parents are the ones, my dad made the journey over. I'm a firstborn American. But I think there's a lot of people, I think you go throughout the world and you find that there's certain types of people everywhere. There's patriotic people, there's rebellious people, there's honest people, there's dishonest people everywhere you go. And you're probably a lot more like, all of us are more like people in other parts of the world than a lot of our neighbors. And I don't know if this, I'm leaving this something that makes sense, but I don't know that I did the right thing by killing some of these people when there's probably people nearby, a lot closer to me, that it would have been better for me to kill, but it's not excused, you know? And I'm not sure that some of the people, you know, I don't believe in any of this anymore. If that, I don't, this, all the war is nonsense, and yeah, you have to be able to defend yourself, but it's disgusting. It really is. And I think, am I going off tangent?
You're doing fine.
I feel like we were all tricked, really, just because they speak a different language. And don't get me wrong, I don't want to live in a more oppressive culture. But the cultures that we're fighting, because they don't have freedom and this type of thing, they're not that different than the United States 100 years ago, really. They you know, where you couldn't go out with, where women can't go out without the dress down to, you know, oh, your ankle's showing, oh, everybody gets all heated up about it or whatever. So so that's what bothers me more. And there's a big thing is to, okay, I got a few minutes, to separate. And this I just started thinking about within the last few years, trying to separate honorable intent versus that, how all these people, especially young people, their honorable intent is used for something that may well be completely despicable, even to go to the opposite, maybe not despicable, maybe profiteering, maybe something like that, and to try to separate the two, that, and especially with a dead brother, you know, I lost my brother, and what was that for? How did that help anyone there? How did that help anyone here? And I'm not saying there aren't legitimate answers to say, well, it did help this. I have noticed that the United States hasn't really been attacked to the same level like after the 9/11. So part of me thinks, you know, the stepped up security helped. But then there's also the suspicious other side of, well, who's actually really choosing when these things happen? I don't know. I'm not a big conspiracy theorist, because I think it's real hard to get away with things, but I don't know. I also think people turn their heads a lot, or just choose to believe what they want to believe. So, yeah, I guess the answer is I didn't really care about them then, but I do in a certain sense. I was glad it wasn't me.
Sure.
I was glad it was them and not me.
Sure. What kinds of friendships and camaraderie did you form while serving, and with whom?
I have some pretty good friends. Some lasted beyond service, and then there's still the there is something too about being friendships with people who did a similar thing, even though you didn't know them at the time, because they kind of know what they can relate to it. I don't know. I don't know if my friends were any better friends than. There's certain things like you become very close in a certain sense, as much as you're at each other's throat, that you will sleep when you're cold. Two Marines will snuggle up together to stay warm. There's a lot of, and that's part of one of the things they do in the military, is break down all those barriers. I mean, I can't even imagine doing it now. My idea of success is when I have my own office with my own private adjoining bathroom. That's when I've really made it, right? I don't have that now, but you know, there was the situations where you're sitting there. Can you give me the funny papers? Here you go. You know, no privacy, and you get the point where you don't really even care, because there's all that has been kind of torn down. But yeah, I mean, you hang out with. I didn't have any friends that weren't. No, there was a couple guys at the surfer bar we used to go to that we were kind of friends with, and would go to their house that weren't Marines. But otherwise, basically all your friends are Marines.
How did you stay in touch with family and friends back home?
Telephone.
Just give them a call?
Yeah. My dad wrote me letters. I never wrote back though.
What did you do for recreation or when you were off duty?
Ocean. When in Hawaii, it was always in the ocean, and probably turned myself into an alcoholic, which I had to deal with later. I think a lot of us do. I drank too much, went out in the town and stuff. Went to the movies, went to the mall, that type of thing.
When you were in the service, did you read for pleasure, and if so, what?
Yes, I remember I read Dune, most of the series Dune, a lot of stuff like that. I'm trying to remember. I like sci-fi and horror mostly. I'm trying to think, did I read anything really? I'm trying to remember. I thought I read something like, did I read any C.S. Lewis or something like that then? I thought I remembered reading some classic stuff, but I think college introduced me to appreciate that more.
What particular book would you say influenced your life the most?
Throughout my whole life?
At any point.
The Brothers Karamazov. And that's the first one, the Brothers Karamazov, and the other would maybe be probably I'd have to say one of C.S. Lewis, something. Maybe I'll go with Mere Christianity.
Okay. Did you use libraries when you were in the service? Why or why not?
I went there once in a while, but now just bought paperback books, mostly. I think that was more the reading was more done on deployment too, when there was nothing else. If that makes sense. When there was nothing else, there's no TV or movie theaters and that type of thing.
Right, you're just waiting.
Yeah.
So you were deployed, and once your deployment was over, you went back to Hawaii.
Yes.
And it was in Hawaii that you went to squad leader school?
That was in California.
In California.
Yeah.
And then you decided, I'm done, I'm going home.
Yeah.
So once you mustered out, did you just hop a plane, hop a train, drive, hitchhike?
Yeah, just jumped on a plane. They come and they pack up your stuff for you and ship it to you. And I jumped on an airplane and flew back to Chicago. I think probably almost certainly my dad came and picked me up.
Okay. How were you received by family and your community when you got back?
There's the hero worship type stuff.
How was that for you?
Well,
Good, bad,
I
indifferent.
liked it, and the thing is it quickly changes once your true nature. There's the showing up in your dress blues and telling stories and everyone's ooh and ah, but when you're all way wound up more than they, and it took me a long time to realize that the things that I thought were funny were not funny to other people. Like, I don't know.
For example?
Huh?
For example?
Oh, gee, well, I don't know. I mean, how many street fights? I've probably been in 40 street fights after I got out, that type of thing. Trying to find that. You get addicted to that. It's a weird thing. The first time you're in combat, you want nothing but to get out of there. And then you go back to the rear and you're bored. And it builds the more you do it back and forth. And then you come back and you can't, there's no outlet to get that level of adrenaline. And that's why I think a lot of vets go for alcohol and drugs and all these things, trying to ramp up their system. And so, yeah, no, it took me a long time. I alienated a lot of people. I've been arrested more than once. I've been in jail, I think, 3 times for things, and one time, I mean, it was semi-serious. I did some screwing around shooting. I wasn't trying to kill anybody, but the police showed up with their, in the black with the helmets and all that stuff. I mean, and ever since that, I mean, I got pulled over for something one time, and they put me in the back of the car, and I saw my military record combined with some misbehavior makes me I mean, maybe this is too much. Maybe my grandmother here to read it. Actually, my grandmas are both dead. So, but I mean, I was kind of surprised. I mean, I went into Cook County Jail one time. I got arrested. It was just I didn't pay my warrant for. I had a warrant because I didn't pay something for a traffic thing because I'm kind of like, whatever, you guys. And I go into Cook County Jail, and I'm packed in a room filled with real criminals, and they pull me out to do extra searches and stuff like that. So no, it took me a long time. It was 10 years ago when I realized I needed to get some help, and I did. And it took, first there's a few things, the VA Danville, the church, and my now wife I think I would be dead probably, because just always, and realizing that this stuff isn't funny, it's not okay, other people don't see it the same way. Maybe if you got a few of the people who, there's a few people who, what do you call it, your comrades in obnoxiousness, but mostly so, I don't know. Yeah, you get a lot of this kind of false hero worship, and then when they see what you're really like, then they don't want to be around you anymore.
So your adjustment to civilian life was pretty rough initially, because you couldn't adjust.
I did better at the beginning, and little by little it started, because I never dealt with anything. So yeah, it's hard to make that adjustment, that you can't just even the simple stuff, like even not combat related, just how people talk to each other in the military. It's okay to threaten someone's life. And everyone jokes about you. What's the one of the Clint Eastwood movies or something like that, where the great insults and that kind of thing, and you can't talk to people like that. So it's hard. I think you never quite. It's not like it's ever gone. And I don't know. But.
Sure. Have you remained in contact with or reunited with fellow veterans, and if so, who?
Yes, I have a few that I've, well, Facebook did a lot for that. But I think we all know what Facebook does. You get their name in your Facebook list, and then you say, okay, I know where they are, now I can ignore them again. But there is, let's see, there's one guy I used to hang out with a lot, who was he was one of my closest friends out there. And Howard, there was a few of us, three guys, we were buddies. We used to hang out all the time. Take care, thanks. When one of them fell off a mountain out in Hawaii like a week before he was supposed to come home, so we hung out quite a bit for a while.
Are you a member of any veterans organizations, and if so, which?
No. I don't know. I don't put stickers on my car. I don't like that stuff, and it's not because, I don't know, like my brother's in the VFW, and basically, maybe I'm an asshole, but you said it's okay to hear. I don't talk like this at work, right? I think it's okay. You're letting
yes.
My veteran portion of me come out. First of all, I don't want people to know who I am, especially when I'm driving or something like that. I don't wear shirts because I feel like I have to act a certain way. And the truth is, usually it's the people who go around waving the flags and have stickers all over everything that are full of shit. And and I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like the people. A lot of times I meet them. It's like they have these groups, and I was invited to join the Marine Corps League, and I was like, yeah. You guys can all go hold hands together and tell each other how great you are. I'm not interested. And maybe that's just me trying to be, always trying to one up everything. So, I got to be a little better than them. I'm not gonna. I'm not saying it's not my own. Psychological pathologies, and I'm not excusing myself, but that's just how I feel. So,
sure.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Right. So, what have you done since separating from the military? You came home. You went to NIU for you said 2 years, and then you went to UIUC.
Yep, and I got my physics degree. I went on an exchange program to Germany. Tried going to grad school in Colorado. I couldn't hold it together. I think I started drinking a lot then. So I came back to the Midwest and back to the home area for a while, and did some things that weren't really, delivered pizzas for a little bit just to calm down. I worked for 3 years as a bouncer in a nightclub, and that's when things that really escalated we liked to street fight and stuff, and then I kind of got myself started getting some treatment and stuff like that. I came down here in about 2000, I think. I don't know what it was. Well, my brother died in 2003, and that's a lot. Actually, I was doing quite well. I forgot about that. I was going to school, doing some biomedical stuff at UIC, and then my brother got killed, and then that's kind of what really threw me into a mess. But then I joined a group here in mechanical science and engineering, and got into doing modeling of brain trauma using MRI modeling and that type of thing. Went on my own for a little bit and did contract. I learned when I was there that I had that computing skills were a good thing to have, and with the physics degree, I'm pretty, it kind of naturally transfers over. You just got to learn the tools, and so I did a lot of programming, but kind of didn't find my place. Worked for several different companies, went on my own for a few years, built property management software but I was a terrible businessman, and then I finally then I got a job at NCSA. That was 3 years ago. I don't know, that was a quick.
As a veteran, have you used your local library? Why or why not?
The local library, I used it, when I lived in town, I used the Champaign Library all the time. A lot of the library I do it for, just as a good place to sit and work, read magazines. I don't check out a lot of books, honestly, and somewhere along the line I saw like someone sneezed in a book that I was reading clearly, and I was like, oh my goodness, I don't know who's had these books where. And so I've gotten to be more of I buy my books or the type of person. But I like libraries a lot. I've hung out there. Which direction? I lost my sense of direction. Is that the? I thought that's the front. It is. I did get okay. Yeah. I did have my sense of direction. So I've been there. I like those type of places, especially now when you can drink coffee in libraries. Mm-hmm. Now go ahead. If you have more library questions, I'm interested.
As a veteran, are there programs or types of books available at the library that you enjoy more than others? As a veteran.
I don't think so. Okay. I don't read like a lot of I like to, if I want to know about military stuff, I liked reading Herodotus more. I don't like the pop new. Part of it is I think reading's a little hard for me, so and this is more me always trying to prove to myself how great I am, that I prefer to read classics and things. I don't know why. I honestly feel I get really bored with reading. I don't do too much light reading. Mm-hmm. If I'm going to read something, I want to read something that dense. Like I said, I like the Brothers Karamazov, and I didn't read the whole thing, but I read a portion of Herodotus and that kind of, I don't know. But it's the knowledge, I think. I don't know if I'm answering your question quite right.
You are.
Okay.
As a veteran, is there something that you wish you could change about the library that would enhance your enjoyment of it?
I don't know, hand grenade range. Okay. Something as a veteran.
So some people have said that they wish that there was a book club that was only for veterans, or that there was a wider selection of a certain type of book, like either military histories or reintegrating into civilian life or other things.
Not really.
Okay. How did your military or wartime experiences affect your life?
Oh, I'll tell you, my kids think I'm actually diagnosed with 70% PTSD. It probably doesn't surprise you, because I am security wound up. That's all when you walk in here, I was like, there's no way I'm sitting with my back towards the door. Mm-hmm. That type of thing. My kids go crazy when I'm just crossing the street. I'm like, you didn't look back and to the right. There could be a teenager on their phone coming this way, turning left. Okay, Dad. So, and that's kind of, and I know I let it go. And of course, I'm not worried about someone trying to snipe. It's more snipe me in the back of the head right now, though, at the same time. So, am I answering the right question?
You were. So
I wish I would have put a little more.
We're almost done.
Okay.
So in short, what you're saying is that yes, your military and wartime experiences affected your life a lot.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And even just the thoughts of how I would like to handle situations, which I know. I mean, I'm a socialized person, and more so now than I was in the past. But yeah, I think it sounds funny especially I'm a computer geek, but I'm binary. I'm nice and quiet, and my wife knows, and she knows how to set me up too. If she wants me, she knows what my triggers are. When this nice, normal, civilized Marcus doesn't have it's a step function, right? I go from nice guy to everything turns red, and I'm ready to go full on assault. And it's a hard thing, and that's not life. Most of life is about sitting still when you're, when things are difficult, holding your tongue when you know.
Sure.
So yeah.
What are some life lessons you learned from military service?
I don't know. Go to college. I'm sorry. I know. I wish I would have put more money in the meter because I enjoy this. Honestly, giving me a chance to just talk about myself and stuff. That was my 10-minute warning, so I could probably make it over there. I'm parked right over here. They're probably coming around all the time, huh?
Yeah, they're not too bad.
What's the ticket anyway? 25 or something?
It's like 20.
20? Maybe.
You should be okay.
Okay, since we
How has your military service impacted your feelings about war and the military in general? You said earlier that now you're kind of against war. What about military?
No, I'm not. I'm pro-military and anti-war, if that makes sense. I don't know. I don't believe in. There are times to fight, and you have to protect what's yours. And humans are territorial, top of the food chain predators, and there's gonna be people trying to take your stuff. The problem with war and fighting is that I mean, to even think of it practically or business like. Okay, if we're going to do all this, ancient people didn't go to war over, maybe they build it up with beliefs, but my feeling is they knew what they were doing. They're taking their stuff. You take their land, you take their water, you take their whatever. And there were times in the past when you have to do that. If I live here, I have my tribe, and everything dries up, we've got no choice. We've got to move. And if it means stepping over someone else, we have to. Now it's so abstract. And I hate these words, freedom. I hate this. No one's free. You're free to make some choices, but you're going to deal with consequences. If I don't go to work, I'm not going to feed my kids. I'm not free, And I don't even know I hate those words, excuse me. Freedom, democracy. Democracy is complete. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to start. I know you're just listening to me, and it's complete bullshit. It's not democracy. There's a bunch of people running the show, and we got this make-believe game that we we get to vote for one guy or another. It's not democracy. It's bullshit. We're set up, and so I don't want those people telling any of us what to do. And I think this is one of the things that affects people the most. And you'll find that veterans, I think a lot of us come out and have the most disrespect for authority, where they think, oh, you're going to learn discipline, you're going to learn to obey authority and stuff like that. And I my perception is we all come out and are waving our finger at it all. I don't tell me what to do. Let us make our own decision. And I think some people are getting rich off these wars. But it's not the people who are out there. Mm-hmm. They're dying, or they're getting their their emotional constitution mangled for it. So no, and as far as I'm concerned, there is no reason in the modern world for these wars. Period. How does it? None of it. There's nothing helpful about it. Yeah, the new technologies. Well, go to space instead. Let's colonize Mars. Let's be building hydro turbines in the ocean or something, not blowing shit up. So no, it's the stupidest thing in the world. It really is. Like I said, I get it, and I don't think it's going to change. And I joke around about this. There was the time when people were hungry; they had to fight wars and stuff like this. The human nature is not changing, I don't think. And it doesn't matter how good we have it. We're gonna find. And I always think this about myself too. Like, I gotta have something to be mad about. Something that pisses me off. Something that offends me, and it'll be this, and this, and this until something else comes up that overrides it. Mm-hmm. And then I switch to that one, and that other thing is all forgotten about. And I don't know. So no, there's no, I'll fight now, I fight for my family. I'll fight for if someone's coming in here and trying to actually take our space. But now it's so abstract, you know what I mean? All these people. And I believe there's a real threat with North Korea. I don't know. But I don't know if there's a real threat. It's all fed to me through this box. The people who make money
Right.
fill me with information, with agendas of their own. So no, I feel bad for people who, and I feel the worst thing is trying to tell a kid, it's not what you think it is. You're not going in for the right reason. You're going to be disappointed, and all they hear is, he's telling me I'm not tough enough. I know I'm tough enough. Mm-hmm. And there's no convincing them until 4 years later. Then they're like, oh shit, I should have listened to that idiot.
Mm-hmm. So that's actually a good segue. What message would you like to leave for future generations who will hear this interview? I was going to say, think about your kids or your grandchildren or your great-grandchildren.
I have a very strong feeling about things now. Don't worry about the whole world. Worry about the things that you can actually change. People, if you try to be moralistic by telling people what you think about what needs to be done on the other side of the world, you're missing the whole point of you being here. You have hands, you have eyes, you have a mouth, you have a neighborhood. There's people right around here who need help. Help them. Fix things that you can fix. I don't watch news anymore. I don't do any of that because it distracts me from my purpose, which is doing the work that I do. And don't get me wrong, there's need for leadership and organizing and things like that. But going on Facebook and saying, oh, I hate Clinton, I hate Trump, I hate, you know what I mean, I believe in this, I don't believe in that, that doesn't help anyone. It satisfies one's personal feelings. If you want to change the world, do it through kindness and helping people, and always look for a common ground with people as opposed to trying to figure out what your differences are and how you have to prove that person that they're wrong, because we all have things in common. We want to feel good. We want to feel important. We want to feel loved. We want to be part of something important. And that's really, the one to be part of something important is really where the big problems come in, I think. Because I don't know what the right word is. Just, you can get too far into it. And when you're trying, they're dangerous. The best way to do the worst things is in the name of good, too. Right? You got an excuse. I'm doing good. I can kill anyone I want. I can steal whatever I want because it's for this great cause. And if you stay simpler in a way, I think that may be, I like to quote the Mother Teresa, there are no great acts, only acts of great kindness. And I think that's the way to change the world, not through foreign wars and things like that.
Okay. Is there anything you feel like we haven't discussed or should be added to this interview, and if so, what?
I'll probably think of something later, but at the moment, I don't think so.
Okay.
You probably could have kept me here for another hour if you wanted to, right?
All right. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Yeah, you can, anything, I don't know.
Okay, let me, how do
I'm curious about, I told you, right, I got published with a Library of Congress data mining thing, so I need to mention that. We have in my group an interest in library science and stuff.
I'm going to put your name on this file right away so I don't forget who it is. Yay!
All right.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome very much. That was kind of like a free therapy appointment for me. If you need any follow-up or anything, feel free to reach out to me.
Of course.